God,
grant me the serenity
to accept the things I cannot change,
the courage to change the things I can,
and the wisdom to know the difference.
In this edition of Malden Overcoming Addiction, recovery coach and president of MOA, Paul Hammersley, will talk with Executive Director of Banyan Treatment Center, Matt Ganem. Together, we can make a difference. Here's your host, Paul Hammersley.
Hey, I'm Paul Hammersley. How are you? I'm the president of Malden Overcoming Addiction, and I'm here tonight with Matt Ganem from Banyan Treatment Center, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of insight on Matt. Matt's the executive director of Banyan Treatment Center. He's also a poet and the author of A Shadow of an Addict. Matt also hosts Banyan Recovery Radio and speaks to different schools, recovery programs, community forums on addiction. He's a huge voice for recovery in Massachusetts as well as nationwide. OxyContin, which eventually led to heroin addiction, brought him to rock bottom at the age of 21. He was able to turn his life around and now tries to provide hope and strength to those still sick and struggling with substance abuse. Matt works relentlessly to help others escape the grasp of addiction and shining a positive light in recovery. He does this by speaking at schools, community events, prevention, and education. His work was recognized by the Massachusetts Organization of Addiction and Recovery, and Matt was selected to be the Massachusetts Recovery Advocate for the year 2015. Matt's the father of two beautiful children, Christian and Peyton, and has been clean and sober for 10 years. Matt, thank you for coming on, man. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's an honor.
So we got a 30-minute show here in Malden, and we want to focus directly on the disease of addiction, and we're going to get into some stuff that might be uncomfortable for folks, but it's very important that everybody understands this epidemic and what's going on, and what we might be able to do to try to shed some light on this whole addiction. And so right now I'm going to ask Matt, we're going to talk a little bit about active addiction and like what it might be like for a person that's caught in the grips of active addiction. So Matt, what was it like for you?
For me, when I was out there actively using, heroin became everything to me. It became who I woke up to, who I went to sleep with, who I chased after all day, who I sacrificed anybody for. I'd step over my family, my friends, my loved ones, anything to get that fix. And when you're in the cycle of addiction, it's really hard to see a way out. And especially like the generation that I came up in was the OxyContin one. And when OxyContin hit, nobody had a clue down the road that it was going to lead you to be an IV homeless heroin user, and that you was going to lose your family, your friends, your morals, any dreams, any ambitions. And eventually with OxyContin, the progression was the heroin. And when you're 12 years old and you sit there and you look at the word heroin, it has this dirty stigma, filth, like homeless guy under a bridge. That's what I always thought. And then, once you do OxyContin, once you're dope sick, once you kick in, you're spending hundreds of dollars on pills every day just to get that fix. And you can't find a pill you can't afford just to get to normal. And heroin gets presented to yourself. All that stigma that was attached to it, that homeless guy holding the door open for you, the image in your head of what heroin was disappears because somebody says that's going to make you feel better.
So generally what I'm hearing is, you start off the OxyContin and it becomes very expensive. Some of it's it's $1 a milligram. It could be like $300 a day. And while you're already in that world, what can happen is someone can take a $10 bag of heroin,
put it in front of you, and say this is going to make you feel the same way as those 5 pills.
That's right.
And when you have a $300 a day habit, I don't know too many people that can afford a $300 a day habit.
That's right.
On a job, on money from your parents. So, what me and my friends did was, we committed crimes. We
turned to the street.
We were monkeys that sold bananas to support the habit that we had. And that was how we survived. And slowly but surely, as you screwed over more people, as I kept getting arrested, as I kept getting into detox and programs, giving these broken promises of this time I'm going to get better, this time I won't be back in jail, I'm going to complete this program and then leave. You end up hitting rock bottom. And
go ahead.
Well, when you hit rock bottom, you look around and there's nobody around you.
And who were some of the main people before, I don't know about you, but so I just celebrated, I'm also in recovery. I'm 13 years in recovery. And for me, it was people who love me. That's what I went after first. And,
Yeah.
you know, I like talking about this stuff just so folks can become informed, you know, the lying, the manipulation,
Oh, we
and
tug
going
on
at family.
We tug on the heartstrings of our loved ones and our family members. The people that love us the most, that love us the most, are our easiest victims.
That's right.
Because we can
Bullseyes.
use their love, and we can turn it against them to get whatever it is that we need. So if you love me, that's $50 for a bag of dope. Oh, you know, oh, I'm hurting, or I have this, or I need that. Let me get some money, and they're always there without fail because they love us and they care about us.
And
those
it's
are the
constant
victims.
lies and
Always
manipulation.
lying. Oh, I need money for this. Or I lost my check. Or I'll pay you next week. And you know, anything that can possibly be said to get $40 to get a bag of dope.
And
I've
one
said
more
it.
never happens.
Yeah.
Never. Just so folks can understand that might tune in and not really understand the horror and like, and this is a disease. You know, people do have it twisted, and like I'd like to talk about that for a minute. Like, you know, I'm not a doctor, but this is definitely it's a disease of the brain. It's a disease. It needs to be treated like a disease. People need help.
Well, you need long-term treatment.
That's right.
And the drugs are a byproduct of what's wrong with us. It's
That's
what
right.
we use to self-medicate, the depression, the anxiety, the trauma. Because you got to think, anybody that's out there actively using, we don't put ourselves in the best situations.
At all.
And then, you know, whether, for instance, for me, like, I mean, I was stabbed and somebody almost killed me. My best friend committed suicide. I was sleeping on his couch. I had to take him down. Like, these experiences that we have when we're out there using, what we do is we self-medicate with drugs, and we numb all these feelings, all this trauma. And for years, we push off, and then all of a sudden, 5 years of drug use, we're trying to get clean in a small amount of time. All that stuff we've been suppressing spills and just
That's
like
right.
spills out where, you know, you got anywhere from 21 to 30-year-olds who have the mentality of a 12-year-old and life skills of a 12-year-old who don't know how to cope with pain, cope with trauma, cope with death. They don't know how to, you know, when I got clean, I was sleeping on a couch for the last couple of years. Like, I didn't know how to make a bed. I didn't know how to clean my clothes. I had the clothes I was wearing on my back when I got into the halfway house.
So let's switch to that. So you mentioned about when you got clean, and I know what it meant for me, but what led you to get clean? Like, just, you don't have to give me the full story, but what like drove you there?
Desperation got me to be clean. I mean, I had hit rock bottom. I was sleeping head to toe on a futon in South Boston. One of my best friends getting high with his mother, and I used to give his mother heroin as my way of paying rent. That's how she let me live there. And at that point in time, I was on trial. I had no contact with my family because every time I was in jail, I called, let me get some money, or I'm gonna get out, or I'd be in a program lying to them, detox, oh, this time's gonna be different, this time's gonna be different. And then I would borrow money, I would suck them dry, and then they finally had enough that they, you know, that they weren't trying to deal with me. And I legitimately had no friends and no family contact beyond like my buddy who I was living with, his mother, and then our dope dealer. He ended up getting clean, and I was on a suicide mission. I don't want to live anymore.
But basically, you had nowhere else to go.
I had nowhere else to go, and then also the only way I saw out of my addiction was by dying. So I would do whatever I got throughout the day, I would do all at once, hoping I didn't wake up. Because I had a belt around my throat, I had a gun in my mouth, like I wanted to kill myself so bad, and I didn't have, you know, the courage to pull a trigger or to drop when I had it. So I wanted to fade peacefully in my sleep. And, you know, it came a point where I was dope sick, and he had gotten into a program. Every day he was calling me, asking me to get into this program. And so I'm dope sick for 2 days. His mother's getting high in front of me. And she turns to me and she says, you have an effing problem. You need to go and get help. And then proceeded to shoot up the one thing that I wanted.
Right.
And it, you know, it was a struggle. It wasn't 2 days clean. It was agony. It was pure torture. And at that time, like, I didn't shower. I didn't brush my teeth. I didn't eat. I didn't take care of myself. And I remember I went into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror, and it was just a stranger looking back at me. Like, I looked like a skeleton. I had bags under my eyes. I was like 135 pounds.
And that was the beginning.
That
was like the beginning of the journey.
Like, I need to go and I need to do this. Like, I'm either gonna die if I continue this way, or I need to get clean. And that wasn't, I ended up getting high that day and ended up making it to detox, where I like collapsed from pure relief.
So detox was your beginning.
The detox, yeah.
And now,
I went
was
to
there multiple detoxes?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
That wasn't the first detox I've been to.
So then, at the beginning, when you came in this last time, like to where you are now, because I see you everywhere. Like we're both on the circuit. We both go out. We're both doing this stuff. and you are all over the place. So you need to be commended for what you're doing in recovery, and like it's not going unnoticed. So the point I'm getting to is going back to when you got clean. What did you have to do to maintain your recovery when you first went in there and you are sick and you don't know what you're doing, you have nowhere to go, there's nothing left for you? Like, what did you do to maintain the attitude and stay on the path at the beginning? Just so folks know that there is a way out.
I went through public programs. I went through the Hamilton House in Dorchester, which
Further
was a
treatment.
residential further
treatment.
Yeah.
Right.
I went through further treatment. That was one of the biggest things.
Hands down.
And I stuck it out, and I got in with my buddy. It was the program my buddy went into. Me and him were in there, and we had two older guys that like took us under their wings. Because I used to go to programs. I'd get there the first day, I'd see somebody I know, and we would leave, or I would feel really uncomfortable because I'm alone and all these new people, and my fears and my insecurities would drive me right out the door. So I would never stick around. And you know, I was very fortunate that the program I went through, like I had a court case that was trying to send me upstate for crimes that I committed when I was using. And the owner, the guy that ran the house, went to court for me and went to bat, like, let's give this kid a chance. Because I've been in the court system since I was a young teen and never felt like I could escape it. And then here I am, you know, and I was given a chance to actually, like, you know, fight for my life and take it back. And it was at a time, like, people talk about the epidemic nowadays. It was an epidemic when I started using 15 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, people were dying and dropping like flies down there, but nobody would talk about it. And the way that it's talked about today is completely different than back then. My parents couldn't talk to their neighbor and say, oh, you know, my kid's a heroin addict.
The stigma.
There was such shame behind that. My parents, like, still to this day, like, they aren't open to talk. Like, yeah, my story's out there. Like, I've been on, you know, Fox News, CBS, Boston Herald, Boston Globe. Like, I've done a bunch of things in publications, but like my parents don't talk about when I was using, because back then it was you know, it was like they failed me as a parent. And you know, I promise you, it's nothing that my parents did raising me as a kid. Like, I was raised better than becoming a heroin addict. But the fact is when I started, like, it wasn't as widespread and it wasn't in the areas that it's in now, and people didn't talk about it in the same way.
So let me guess, at the beginning, like, back up, you talked about your parents, and something I want to drill into folks' minds. Like, I don't think there's one person that suffers from this disease that when they were 5, 6, 7 years old that say, man, when I grow up, I want to be an addict. I want a needle in my arm. Like, and that's what folks don't understand. Like, you're not, it's not something that you wish, it just happens. Like, it's like
a progression. It's if
That's
you experiment, you know, people cast stones with judgment because they can sit there and they can drink and they can be fine with it. But like, not everybody has that capability. And if you go down this path, and if you talk about the drugs that 95% of heroin addicts start with, it was Oxycontin or it's Perk 30s. It's high impact painkillers made for severe pain. So let's go back and let's break down. An OC80 was made for hospice patients on their way out of life. So they're on the verge of death, and they get these time-release pills.
With the gel cap.
12 hours it was supposed to, you know, it's supposed to go through your body for people on their deathbed to ease into death.
That's right.
You give a healthy 16-year-old athlete, where we take the coating off and we get the impact of that, like, that's heroin.
That's it.
It was heroin in a pill. And like, the widespread of those pills when I started, they were everywhere. They, you know, it wasn't alcohol that we could get, because alcohol we need a buyer and somebody who's 21-year-old. The drug dealer isn't gonna, they're not gonna ID me to get my money for the pills that I wanted. And at the time that we all started using, we were using them at parties, at house parties, and around other people where it was socially acceptable. Like, oh, if you're doing it, oh, it's not that bad. It's like taking a couple of perks, you feel good.
And next thing you know.
And then down the road, it's like,
you're
all of us are strung out on 80s.
That's right.
And I remember the first time that I was, you know, that I didn't have it after doing it for like a consistent amount of time, and I was sick. And somebody was like, yo, you're dope sick. I don't do dope. What are you talking about? I'm not doing heroin. Like, no, you're dope sick because you're withdrawing from opiates.
And you need more. When
you
get more, you don't feel sick anymore. And that's just so people understand that's what happens.
But then going back to what I was saying in the beginning about the stigma of heroin, the word heroin is so filthy, right? What does Oxycontin sound like?
Not filthy.
What about Percocet?
No, it doesn't.
Or Vicodin?
Because it seems to be socially acceptable because doctors write prescriptions for it.
A doctor, and I justified like, oh well, a doctor,
right.
and even as Oxycontin in my life spiraled out of control, right? And as the group of my friends are all addicted to these pills, and slowly but surely this person went to heroin, that person went to heroin. I sat there saying, well, I'm never gonna be like that. At least I know what I'm getting in this pill because a doctor prescribes it.
And so after going through all of that, Matt, and you just started to get clean and you're coming around, there had to be a point where you realized that you wanted to help people.
Yeah.
Like at what point, like, did you, like, when did you know that the path was?
What, this?
Just all of it, like, because this isn't something new for you. You've been.
No, I've been doing it for a day or two.
And I'd like to start with, like, did the poetry, because you are a poet.
Poetry has always been a part of my life.
Right.
So like when I was a kid, I struggled in English. I'm not really a good English student. I can't write a sentence. I don't know what a noun or a verb or anything like that, right? But in school, I always could write poetry. I like the way that words rhyme, and I love writing, using metaphors and similes and having like ulterior, different meanings of a piece. Like I'll write a piece about a girl and it's about heroin, or I'll write a piece about heroin and it's about a female. And like I've always loved that. And I wrote up until I started doing heroin. And what's funny is I have notebooks from when I was in detox, from when I was 18. The first time I was in detox, I was kicking OCs, and I looked in a room full of heroin addicts, and I said, like, I'm not gonna be that person. I'm not gonna be that person. Like, I'm not as bad as that person. In the poem, I struggle with even just admitting that I was an addict. Yet I'm out there committing crimes,
That's right.
lying, cheating, stealing. I'm selling drugs. Like I'm doing everything that like I wasn't raised to do. But like the struggle was, I could feel it in the writing. And then when I got clean,
You switched it to talking.
so when I got clean, years of shame, trauma, all the stuff that I've been through. Now I'm in a house with 26 guys. The Hamilton house was either you're on your way to prison or you're paroled to the program. So I'm in a house with 20-something guys that are like 6'5". I'm not going to the guy that did 10 years in jail like, hey, buddy, I'm struggling today. Like, I'm emotional. I struggle communicating, like my feelings and what I go through. So what I did was I started putting my feelings down on paper. Like a piece of paper will never judge you. So I have notebooks just of me sitting there having a bad day. There was this time I was on restriction forever. And I'm in court, and I always would tell my house manager that I had to be, they pushed the court date back till 2 o'clock, so I have more time out. Usually I was in court for 5 minutes and they give me another date or checking on my PO, see you later, but I tell them I'd have to be out till 2. So there was a time I'm in downtown Boston, just hanging around with like another guy from the house. He's with this girl. The girl pulls out a fill syringe. I'm still very, very sick, right? I wanted to punch her in the face and take it because that's how bad the pull of it I struggle with. And what I did is I turned, I ran right to the train station, hopped on the train, went home. I wrote a piece about overdosing and dying in the bathroom. Because that's the consequences
that's what you
of me
do. You
using,
write.
and that's the way for me to get whatever it is I'm going through.
So we got a rolling. We got a clip of what you do. Just everything you talked about, your feelings, and at this time we're going to go to a rolling, if that's ready.
Cool.
I'm the surface of a sleepless ocean. The cold depths of frozen emotion. I'm pieces of a heart broken, floating inside a love that was stolen. I'm written poetry spoken. I'm a fresh page, with a mind full of things to say, reminiscing on yesterday's best days to get the stress away. Even if I'm depressed today, I'm that feeling inside. When you look your lover in the eyes that no other person alive could provide. I'm the sun setting on a crimson sky. I'm trapped inside these speakers, turning naysayers into believers. When the poem gets deeper, I'm the teacher, abusing the fact that I have the platform to reach it. I'm lost in the wind, a breeze that will never come across you again. Brought up in Boston, boxed in the problems, coming up from the bottom where rising's the only option. I'm the beautiful ugly, a recovering junkie, making barely enough money to keep a roof over me and my son that loves me, and I refuse to let him go hungry because my past has come back to crush me. I'm that first breath of freedom. Breathe in the 1,000 reasons, leaving a cell block of demons screaming freedom like you just left work for the weekend. Only the work week lasted for 5 years. Borrowed time will make you see clear as you watch your youth disappear. You learn the truth when you're in here. Only your true friends will be there when you breathe free air. I'm the rebirth of Pac Poe and Shakespeare. I'm the rose that grew from concrete, the thump beneath the street where Romeo and Juliet would meet. I'm the madness created from the telltale heartbeat. I'm Achilles at war, but my pen is my sword. Using the allure of everything I went through before as a metaphor that you don't have to struggle anymore. I'm that morning light. After making it through a night that might have taken your life when there was nothing but darkness in sight. But you found the strength to fight, because the sun shines bright. Once you believe, everything will be alright. I'm the last words that a poet writes. I'm the skies telling the story of my past that remind me of what I'll see when I'm looking back. Similes didn't have an impact on half of that, so I literally mapped out the path from where I was at. I'm chaos found in serenity, the point beyond infinity, taking what's given to me so I can build from within my city. I even pray for my enemies, because once upon a time they were a friend to me. Regardless if they see it differently, I'm trying to make history. I'm a legend. A sober my friends that made it to heaven is a penman. I'm the extension of their resurrection, redemption. For anyone abusing prescription medicine whose progression led them to heroin, let that settle in. I'm the voice of a generation, raising my voice to the nation. Inspiration for every addict getting high in the basement, or kid trying to get clean as a detox patient, that they can say, I am one of the ones that made it. I am hope for those that lost it, still carrying pieces of broken dreams in their pocket, who think happiness is found in material objects. I'm street knowledge. I'm passion, pleasure, and pain. I'm lightning, thunder, and rain. I'm what my mother made on the first day of May. I'm a heroin addict that changed, but couldn't wash away the stains that covered my veins. I'm Matt Ganem, and you will remember the name. I'm not anonymous.
Wow, that was so powerful. My God. So I have to ask you, Matt, is there any way you could give me like 2 minutes of that live?
2 minutes of that piece or another piece?
Another piece, something else.
I got another one. I don't necessarily like reading my pieces to the public, but I got this Let's Shatter the Stigma piece that I want to share with you guys.
Beautiful.
I have a dream, like Martin Luther King, to show the world what breaking the stigma means. Open the eyes of the blinds to show the people in recovery can accomplish anything. The silence needs to end. Recovery advocates are like warriors that need to stand up. How much longer can we pretend? When is enough gonna be enough? It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, gay or straight, black or white. It could put an honest man in court, have you barely holding on to your life. I've been a witness to some of the best people lose themselves in the chaos of addiction. That doesn't mean they can't put down the bottle and needle. They need better help instead of locking them away in prison. We need to open our eyes. It's time we move past the judgmental opinions. My heroes are addicts that hit the bottom and survive. I carry the lives of my fallen friends that didn't. I refuse to let them die in vain, keeping their story alive to save someone else. There's millions in recovery that prove you can change. I'm not just speaking for myself. You don't know if that doctor's saving your kid's life? For the officer that comes in your time of need, that politician used to struggle at night, or the nurse that was able to knock out her disease, that teacher educating the youth, the lawyer defending her client. Unfortunately, you'll never know the truth because the stigma of addiction keeps most of us quiet. No one wants to grow up and struggle with substance abuse. When I was 12, a heroin addict wasn't what I dreamed to be. Then you watch how negatively it gets covered in the news. I never wanted that stigma to be attached to me. Self-medicated to fight off depression, overdose victim found dead. Bank robber caught with heroin, celebrity dies from overprescribed meds. Never once do you see the spotlight shine on recovery, whereas the camera's focusing on a positive story. Sometimes I wish I had the power to make the masses see, but I'll continue screaming out even if nobody supports me. When is the silence gonna end? I'm sick and tired of the stigma. I've already lost too many of my friends. It's an epidemic that spread across America. It's not just a Boston thing. Addiction has no boundaries and it blurs the lines. Trying to channel my inner activist like Martin Luther King. I have a dream to shatter the stigma before the end of my time. We stand up for recovery. We stand up for those that didn't make it out. We stand up for those struggling currently. We stand up for those clinging to their bed in a halfway house. We stand up for the families who suffered loss. We stand up for substance abuse rights. We stand up and speak out for those who can't talk. We stand up because everyone suffering deserves a second chance at life. We stand up because the stigma needs to die. We stand up for treatment on demand. We think it's time we open the world's eyes. We have a dream that one day the world will understand that we deserve the chance to live. We can no longer stay quiet. Look at the damage this epidemic did. There will be no more suffering and silence. Let's shatter the stigma.
Wow.
Not to like read off a camera, but I felt like that was a good piece.
That's a great piece. And you know, I want to switch real quick. We're running tight on time. We have a few minutes left. So, you know, I want to get into some hope. And a big piece of the hope is if you can give me like I know that you're the executive director, and you guys just opened Banyan Treatment Center. And could you just like tell me what that's about? Just give me just a quick synopsis. Just
I want to give, what we got, a couple minutes?
We got about 2 minutes.
Anybody can accomplish anything out there. You know, anybody that's out there struggling. 10 years ago, I was told I was going to be another statistic. I was going to be another relapse, another overdose death. I was going to be back in prison or a program. I've been clean for 10 years. I got 2 beautiful kids. I got an 8-year-old son, Christian, a 3-year-old daughter, Peyton. 4 years ago, I put out a book called The Shadow of an Addict. I've gone around the country to perform. I've been to D.C., Baltimore, Chicago, Florida, Virginia, New York City, sitting on stage at the New York Eating Cafe with a Red Sox hat and a Red Sox shirt because I bring Boston everywhere that I go. 4 months ago, I opened up a treatment center in Massachusetts with no education and a criminal background because I wanted to bring a program that was going to be there to help people and be the foundation for them to move forward. I handpicked the staff. We're extremely recovery-based, and like the idea is to build people up. Because too many times I was in programs where I'm already broken and people are already trying to break me down even more. And the whole idea is to offer hope that they can accomplish absolutely anything and that recovery is a beautiful thing. My life is incredible today. There's still ups and downs and things aren't easy, but like regardless of that, as long as I stay clean and I stay on a positive path, I help the next person that's out there struggling and I try to offer a little bit of hope, my life is like second to none. I promise you that.
And Matt, again, I want to thank you for coming in here. And I'm going to feed off that for a little bit. So here's 2 guys that are sitting here on an Overcoming Addiction show. And we're both cut from the same cloth. We both were stuck. We both were out there. And now we're both bringing some good stuff to our community. This just goes to show you that, like, anybody, and I mean anybody, can do this. Like, if you're struggling and you're out there, like, you can do this, no matter who you are, what you're going through. Like, we are living proof from where we come from that people do recover. And I want to talk a little bit real quick. I want to give 2 shout-outs. So Malden Overcoming Addiction has a couple of events coming up. And one of them, it's called Generation Found. So it's a movie that it's about what one town does to combat the opioid addiction. And we're showing it at the Jenkins Auditorium, December 1st, 7 o'clock. We're going to have the town of Revere and the town of Malden is joining forces. The Revere mayor, the Malden mayor are going to introduce the program. We're going to have like 15 tables. There'll be Narcan training. Folks will walk away with Narcan. So that's the first event, again, December 1st, 7 o'clock, 77 Salem Street, Malden. The second event is Celebrate Sober, New Year's Eve. We're going to do this. People struggle with a place to go on New Year's Eve that are newly clean, so we're just putting that out there on Salem Street in Malden at Club 24. So please, if you have nothing to do New Year's Eve, 8 to 1, come on down. I'll be DJing it personally. We'll be taking pictures. We'll be having a good time. And lastly, if you're struggling, MaldenOvercomingAddiction.com. Reach out to us. My phone number, 781-838-2203. Call it. You can get us on Facebook. The Facebook is Malden Overcoming Addiction. On Twitter, it's at Malden Overcomes. And honestly, if you need help, please reach out to myself, to Matt. You're worth it. Thanks again. We'll see you next month.